strong.
Chapter 261, Chicken and Dog. The 5-colored light shone on the long stick, and Ye Fusion was stunned. It seems that the will of the Yin family's ancestor is sealed here, not only by the magic circle, but also by the power of the magic weapon. Will was released and entered the long stick. Ye Fusion and the long stick got a ray of contact. He stretched out his hand and the long stick flew into the hand. Element 5. Ye Fusion's eyes flashed, his mind moved slightly, and the long stick suddenly turned into flames, burning everything. Then, the idea moved again, the long stick turned green, and it was very soft. This. Ye Fusion blinked, and the 5-elemental stick could still change shape. Baby. It seemed that it was thanks to the Yin family. Raising his steps, Ye Fusion walked towards the outside. At this time, the outside atmosphere was already tense. The Yin family ancestor wanted to forcefully enter, but Shu Kang's figure appeared in front. The ancestor of the Yin family understood that although the Yin family was affiliated with the Qin dynasty, the Yin family was the worst if they really wanted to go to war. Moreover, it was unclear whether the Qin dynasty would really start a war because of his Yin family. Ye Fusion's figure came out, and countless eyes suddenly fell on him. The Yin family ancestor saw the long stick in Ye Fusion's hand suddenly looked very cold, staring at Ye Fusion stubbornly. You broke the law array. Ye Fusion nodded, calmly. To rob me of the Yin family's magic tripod, now it will destroy the will of my ancestors and deceive too many people. The ancestor of the Yin family sighed angrily. Don't pretend you were wronged. Zhu King glanced at the ancestor of the Yin family indifferently. I understand what happened to the people of the Yin family, and you can't represent the attitude of the Yin family. When the people in my campus are idiots, my life can break through the shackles and succeed successfully. I will use strong suppression directly. If the rest of my life is not a person in the academy, I will kill if I kill him. I am afraid that you will not frown. Poor. For a time, the people around were speechless. The fact is that his strength is the highest. If the rest of life wasn't a hut, would they dare to go on a magical journey? I don't know how to die. Complaints are because of helplessness, and of course helplessness is because of strength, because the college is facing. As they spoke, there was a loud breath released from Mo Ding, and his entire body seemed to be the incarnation of a demon, constantly struggling with conflict and restraint. With a roar, the endless power of the array disappeared, the power to suppress everything disappeared, and the rest of his life took off, like a demon lord. Succeed. Everyone's heart trembled, and the rest of his life let the magic tripod break through the shackles of the magic circle. The magic tripod was still filled with incredible magic, but the magic light patterns on the magic tripod gradually disappeared. The next moment, I saw the big magic tripod turned into a small tripod, and fell into the palm of my life. The prestige of the demons in heaven and on earth disappeared, and what no one had done for thousands of years was done for the rest of his life. The demon found hers. Good and good. Buddha folded his arms and whispered, bad omen. Everyone around looked at the Buddha. Previously, the Buddha said that if the rest of his life had a magic tripod, it would be a great fierce. Now the rest of his life has done it. My ancestor from the Yin family, Bearding. The ancestor of the Yin family looked solid, and the magic tripod was completely lifted by the rest of his life. Obviously, the rest of his life will take the magic tripod. Muding recognized God and was finally able to release his light. Your Yin family must be happy. Zhu King glanced at the rest of his life. The ancestor of the Yin family was very embarrassed. Dinglu sighed, whether it is the magic tripod or the will of the ancestor, is not of much use to the Yin family today, but it is the only remnant left in the previous dynasty. This is the glory of their Yin family. The testimony that the Dinglu area is open to the public, and everyone can come to lifting, just so that the world does not forget that his Yin family was once glorious. But what happened today? The ruins were taken, and the face of the Yin family disappeared. Regarding the death of the ancestor, he didn't really care. It has been useless for so many years, and now he is in trouble, and it affects the Yin family. He knew in his heart that if it was the ancestors who almost killed the rest, there is still room for easing, but with the blow, the conflict broke out completely, and the tongues of the people fell. Will the hut take advantage of it? Where is Academy Cottage, and who doesn't know? The atmosphere is so stiff, the Academy and the Lodge, they don't take the initiative to stir up disputes, but as long as they provoke them, they are not afraid to go to war. You choose, and this is often the most difficult. They were all troops at the top of the eastern mainland pyramid. Who dares to go to war with these? Taking a step back, even if one side wins, it is a terrible victory in great vitality. Isn't it the power that sits on top of the mountain and watches the tiger gain? I heard that you were taught by Jiu Jiku a while ago. At this time, among the Qing dynasty crowd, King Li suddenly looked at Ye Fuxian and said. Ye Fuxian's eyes flickered and he looked at King Li. The people in the academy and the thatched hut frowned. The disgraced teacher and sister were taught as servants, but then came to the Yin family to bully others and do things like raw dogs and dogs. Is this you, Ye Fuxian? King Li smiled ironically. Then, in a few days, how about consulting the students on campus? When the ancestors of the Yin family heard King Li's words, they knew that nothing could be done. Of course, the Qing dynasty did not plan to declare war on this matter. King Li is now the grandson of the Qing dynasty. His words naturally carried a certain weight. Based on the Yin family, what did they do to the academy? Okay, then give it to the academy. Ancestor Yin gritted his teeth and said, many people watching the living people feel a little lost. After all, do not dare to start a war. It's never too big to make fun of him. Of course, they also understand that it is not easy for an army of this level to fight. Help. King Li gestured to make way, and people immediately gave way, leaving the academy to leave, looking very polite. He looked at Ye Fuxian with a smile, as if not a loser. Go, Zhu King said, and the group stepped forward from the crowd of other people. Ye Fuxian walked between King Li and them, his feet stopped for a moment, looked at King Li, smiled, then left. King Li's eyes flashed. Ye Fuxian's smile before leaving was strange. What does that mean? The rest of my life, Ye Fuxian shouted, and the rest of his life followed the team, and the group left. On the way, Luo Fan walked beside Ye Fuxian and asked, what happened to you in the ancient autumn? Warning, but nothing serious. King Li deliberately provoked him. I am afraid he wants us to fall in love with Dao Mozong. Ye Fuxian smiled. How could he not understand King Li's thoughts? Qing dynasty and Dong Hazong joined forces to create an academy, and King Li set foot in the moon sect again, chasing the virgin Chu Chu. Of course, he wanted to unite the army, first hitting the academy and pulling the academy off the altar. Down. Very low. Luo Fan smiled and said nothing. Ye Fuxian and others returned to each other, and soon there was news from Choge city that the Kotang disciples had forcibly seized the Yin family's treasure. Ye Fuxian was even called by King Wangsun to be a naughty dog thief. In addition, according to King Wang's son King Li, Dao Dezong Dao Zi ancient autumn, because his sister Jiu Biu, shot and taught Ye Fuxian. Neither Kotang nor Ye Fuxian responded. Is it because they know the reason? However, Ye Fuxian himself does not cultivate high, and on behalf of the thatched hut, he has caused trouble everywhere. It seems that he is indeed a troublemaker, and seems to be a little mistaken. Ye Fuxian's reputation was badly damaged, but he didn't want to listen to outside rumors. The world has always been like this, it is easy to be controlled by words, and what other people think is what they think. But as long as you are truly amazing, one day everyone will know who you are and who you are. No need to explain, no need to purposely prove to whom. The next few days, Ye Fuxian and the rest of his life were very low. At the inn, he practiced secretly for the rest of his life. At this time, he was sitting on the magic tripod, and the magic tripod recovered to its size, and lay on the ground. The rest of his body was inside the magic tripod. I saw the release of magic power in the remnants of life, which inspired the power of the magic tripod. Immediately, the demon pattern on the magic tripod came to life, a terrifying magic light flowed, crazily flowing into the body of the remaining life. Terrible. Inside the magic tripod, there was a roar of roaring sound, incomparable and domineering, as if there was an extremely violent force washing the flesh from the rest of their lives. After practicing for a long time, I only heard a loud explosion sound. The dark magic light went straight to the roof and the house was destroyed. The body of the rest of his life appeared there, and the magic tripod turned into a small tripod and he held it in his palm, and there was a terrible magic light flowing over him. Ye Fuxian's figure came here, and glanced at the lost house. Ye Fuxian rolled his eyes. Can this man correct his actions calmly? Breakthrough. Ye Fuxian said until the rest of his life. The rest of his life nodded. The seventh order method is out. You couldn't have been smaller. Ye Fuxian glared at him. Uncontrollable. The rest of his life is innocent. Besides being able to practice and practice. Ye Fuxian asked. It's all magic power, not for you. The rest of his life laughed at Ye Fuxian. You can train well on your own, Ye Fuxian said. Although recently, the Qing dynasty and Dong Hazong walked out and said some bad things about him, but they were still low-key. However, on the day the East Keen Academy opened, the two powers would not be too low. Making this event so grand, Qian Shinmu and King Mengruo's wedding also created momentum for this, and King Li also held back the tone when he was on the top floor. If the Qin dynasty and Dong Hazong were not prepared, who would believe it? Just now, I don't know what surprises they have prepared for college. Chapter 262, Arrival. The last day of the 10th year of the divine calendar is the end of another year. Today is a very important year for East China. For the Chinese people, it is a day of reunion. This year will pass and a new year will come. On this day of the year, Choge city is very active. Currently, the top forces are gathering in Choge. Besides, I don't know how many people have come from the central area of the eastern wasteland to prepare for tomorrow's big event. At the end of this year, many people will spend time in Choge city. At night, the full moon hovers, the stars stare, and the sky above the Song dynasty city, with fireworks blooming and a beautiful view. In the courtyard where the Donghazong strongman lives, there is a courtyard. At this time, a woman is sitting there, playing the piano, and in the evening, she looks very refined, with an elegant and beautiful face, and a kind of purity like perfect jasper. As if it were unworldly. Directly, Hua Kangking, one of the three great beauties in Dongwangjuan, is the fairy in the dreams of countless Donghazong disciples. However, from the peak of Donghazong, no one dared to have bad ideas. Someone like Hua Kangking could barely develop blasphemy just by looking at her face. Not to mention, who doesn't know Dong Hazong? He is the true emperor of Hua Kangking. Only she is worthy of being a woman like Hua Kangking. He is naturally praised by the head of Donghazong as a peerless genius who has not been born for hundreds of years, and is also the future of Donghazong, who can bring Donghazong to the top. Lu Nanshan, the most talented person in Donghazong. Even if Qianshan Mu is said to be the first person of the rhythm of the younger generation, no matter the realm or martial talent, there is still a gap with Lu Nanshan. Today, Dong Hazong has long been like a mirror. Lu Nanshan, the next generation of Dong Hazong in the lead, it is said that the chief has prepared a lot for him to take over Dong Hazong. It was possible to hand Dong Hazong into his hands at any moment. Moreover, the head of the beloved palm, Hua Kangking, may have been assigned to Lu Nanshan. Jiu Dongyu went to the Qin dynasty to abolish the prince of Donghazong, and after the news was relayed back to Donghazong, a battle book was sent from Donghazong to the thatched hut. It was said that this was what Lu Nanshan meant. He has not fought for many years, and so far he has not lost. This battle was against three thatched hut disciples. For the people of Dong Hazong, this would be the last time Lu Nanshan would take the position of chief. The challenge will step on Jiu Dongyu and let the world know his name again, thereby gradually taking over Dong Hazong. At this moment, beside Hua Kangking, Lu Nanshan stood still, watching the beauty in front of him quietly. He loves watching it and listening to it play the piano. He was so pure and immaculate, as if it were a clear stream in a murky world, without ever being dusty. Saving the world, constantly fighting, even within Zongman, this is a deception, but he is always pure and flawless. Every time he saw her, Lu Nanshan would feel a peace that the mind never had. He liked it very much. Really like it, there is no trace of desire, just to see it, he feels good. Qin Yan is melodious and gentle, gradually calming down. Hua Kangking's palms are slender, her fingers are slender, and she looks very good. He put his hand down, then looked up a little, his eyes were clear, and he saw a figure standing in front of him. Are you sure? Lu Nanshan smiled and shook his head. If you change people with other forces, you can rest assured, but it is Jiu Dongyu, the three disciples of Kotang. Who dares to say that Jiu Dongyu will definitely win against Kotang Jiu? Lu Nanshan said with a smile, his voice very calm. There weren't many people who deserved to be considered opponents and respected in the Eastern Wasteland. The big disciples and the three disciples in the lodge can naturally rank up. The hut was indeed an honorable power. Then be careful, Hua Kangking said softly, but also calmly, as if the world-famous battle didn't really matter to them, or in other words, she didn't really care. Lu Nanshan smiled, then looked up at the stars. The endless stars in the sky are like the practitioners in the world. However, the brightest stars are always just a handful of them. More people are just geniuses, they just shine like meteors and just release short light. Ellipsis, ellipsis, ellipsis. Kotang disciples gathered at this time, enjoying the annual banquet. Ye Fusion said, the five masters have excellent skills. Exercising. Despite being praised, Luo Fan has no pride. I really envy Brother Five and be able to practice such a fine craft. Ye Fusion smiled shallowly. Brother Ershi isn't here, but there's no one to look after you. Speak carefully. Luo Fan glanced at Ye Fusion with a warning. This guy thought he was being protected by a sister on the mountain. It's not that I'm not going back to the mountains. Ye Fusion heard Luo Fan's threat and gave him a smirk. Luo Fan's face immediately collapsed, and he glared at Ye Fusion. If this bastard returns to the mountain to complain, I'm afraid I won't take it for a while. Hey, my sister has no status, she was even bullied by her sister. There is no second sister in Zinger's sister this year. Some are not used to it. Zhu Ye whispered, and said that he also glanced at Jiu Dongyu's third brother. Eat, there's still work to do tomorrow. Jiu Dongyu said lightly. Brother San, how confident are you that you will be fighting Lu Nanshan tomorrow? Luo Fan asked curiously, not knowing what brother 3. I don't know, Jiu Dongyu replied. Lu Nanshan became famous earlier than him. He had many brilliant achievements and rarely shot later. No one knew how strong he was now, but no one dared to doubt his strength. Even if it's a thatched hut, don't you dare hate a character like Lu Nanshan. Is Lu Nanshan Dong Hazong strong? Ye Fusion asked, as strong as the 3 brothers, did he not have the confidence to beat Lu Nanshan? The first talent in Dong Hazong is naturally not mediocre. Jiu Dongyu. Ye Fusion nodded gently. Both the Qin dynasty and Dong Hazong were the top forces in the eastern wasteland. They can be considered the first talents in Dong Hazong. His strength is undoubtedly unquestionable, but he naturally hopes that the 3 masters will win. This battle was very important to Dong Hazong and the academy. After eating, rest early. Jiu Dongyu stood up and left, and everyone saw the figure of the 3 brothers leaving. Luo Fan whispered, it seems that tomorrow will really be a fierce battle. Sleep well today, take care of your feet, Zhu Ye muttered. Master, where is his father now? Yi Shaoxi muttered. Who knows where to deceive the children? Luo Fan muttered under his breath, and then glanced in the direction where the 3rd brother went. You were miserable when I heard it from the 3 brothers. Yi Shaoxi laughed, and Ye Fusion looked suspiciously at some people. Seeing his doubtful gaze, Luo Fan patted Ye Fusion's shoulder and said with a long heart, Little master, you must remember that as a disciple of Kotang, the most important thing is to respect the teacher, just like me. Saying he got up and left, Ye Fusion hesitated a little. Don't say bad things about master in front of brother 3. Yi Shaoxi reminded Ye Fusion and then left. Ye Fusion blinked and understood, but he didn't care. A disciple like him who respects the teacher is rare in the world. He didn't have to worry about things like this. He would know it by looking at his father-in-law. Proud students. The brothers from various divisions left, and the rest of their lives also returned to practice. Ye Fusion came to the roof alone to lie there, watching the full moon in the sky and the stars in the sky. Under the moonlight, a beautiful elf-like figure appeared there. It's another year. Since that year, at the end of every year, he spent time with Siyu. This year, Siyu was not with him, and he missed him a little. This girl dared to endure Wang Wezong's practice and not look at herself. It seems that the next time you see it, you have to learn a little lesson, and it is not right to use Zhenfu Gang. Thinking about it, Ye Fusion thought of his father again. And mom, aunt, Ye Qin, I don't know what's going on. Where did the right father arrange for them to go, and where was the right father himself? Thinking about it, Ye Fusion closed his eyes and fell asleep unconsciously, so he fell asleep on the roof. In his sleep, he seems to have returned to the age of 15, first met the language of reconciliation, holding hands in love. In his sleep, he also saw an image in his memory, Tianyu Mountain, the retired snow ape Tianzing 9 strike splitting heaven and earth, crashing into the sky, seeing the gods, and the dazzling Princess Donghang. In his sleep, he seemed to be dreaming. In the dream, he saw a majestic figure of the coast that was incomparable, like a true emperor on earth, but his face was a bit blurry and could not be seen clearly. When the sky appeared a touch of white fish, and the Shungshu calendar came in 10 and 3 years, Ye Fusion opened his eyes and studied the cool breeze, blowing on his body. His eyes were clear and clean. It's been another year, and time has passed. Choge City came to life. After dawn, many people walked towards the East Qin Academy. Today is destined to be a day in history. Qian Shenmu married Qin Mengruo, married the Qin dynasty and Dong Hazong, the East Qin Academy opened, and Lu Nanshan and Jiu Dongyu were visitors. Anything is enough to catch the world's attention. Chapter 263, Standing Martial Arts. The place where Qian Shenmu and Qin Mengruo got married was set in East Qin. On the first day of the new year, there were endless figures of Choge City, and they moved in one direction at the same time. In the void, on the road, I don't know how many strong people are. The people of the main forces live in the nearby area. When they departed, there were people everywhere in the area, all of whom went to East Keene. At this time outside East Keene, it can be described as crowded, but a road has been opened in the middle, and only the top-level troops and first-class troops in the eastern wasteland have the right to enter. Ye Fushun came with his brother Kotang and the people in the courtyard, but Jiu Donglu's 3 brothers and 2 mountain heads did not come. In their capacity, there is no need to watch the junior's second marriage or give face. Not only the academy, but the most high-ranking people who came from the top forces did not come alone, but only sent representatives. When Ye Fushun arrived, they were surrounded by strong people from all walks of life. He saw the fairy Wangzong sect, led by several elders, and Chukun among the crowd. A series of beautiful fairy figures are very visible. Fairy sister is kind. Ye Fushun shouted to a woman in the crowd. It was the woman he met when he went to find an interpreter. The woman smiled at him. Strangely looked at Ye Fushun. This is Ye Fushun, a beloved man, who is stunned by the words. The rumors about him in Choge City recently are not very good. Right now, it seems that the acting style is a bit reckless. Many people glanced at Chuji. Recently, Chuchi and Keen Wang Sun Keen were relatively close. Looks like they went on a date at the end of yesterday. I wonder if they will come together. The relationship between Keen Wangsun and Ye Fushun was a little delicate. Moreover, the dispute between Wajiu and Chu Zheng in the Moon sect earlier had caused many of Wang Wezong's disciples to have good ideas. Stepping into East Keene Yuan, they were guided all the way. They got to the podium. After the arrival of the top squad, they occupied all sides of the podium and looked at the front podium. Keen Wang Sun Keen Li, where he directs things. Seeing Wang Wezong's disciples coming, Keen Li put down the things in his hands and walked towards Chu Yan, so that many people present showed a strange color. Below the stage, many first-rate troops from the East Wasteland and Choge City came. They saw a large figure around the stage area, and their hearts were slightly surging. Today, the top troops in the Eastern Wasteland have arrived. Incidents like that are rare. Jiu Donglu didn't come. Someone noticed the direction of the hospital. Jiu Donglu was leaving. Of course, Lu Nanshan didn't appear so soon. The Buddha and Dozi have arrived. Several people paid attention to the direction of Qiankyu Temple and Dao Mozong. These two strengths come from relatively few people. The disciples of the Qiankyu Temple and Dao Mozong are lacking, but more than that, the disciples of the 2 major powers, on the other hand, make people dare not to look down on them. Just like the Lodge, the 8 disciples were still famous. Buddha and Daozi, these 2 legendary monsters, naturally became the focus of many people's eyes. It is said that the Buddha raised the magic tripod to 4 feet before the rest of his life, surpassing countless people. When he holds the tripod for the rest of his life, he says that the rest of his life will be a bad person. And Dozi Gukyu, he also turned to Witch Jiu Biu and warned Ye Fushun. Moreover, Zongsong and Chiao of Fuyun Janzong, Jikong of the Ji family, and several people from the Suspended King Palace and Sacred Mountain Sword were the focal points in everyone's eyes. At this time, there were too many outstanding characters arriving, and those people were difficult to meet on weekdays. Suffice it to say that the disciples, Kotang for now, the leading figure Bailey and the junior Seo Wuji were all extremely famous figures. Around the stage, people from the Qin dynasty and Dong Hazong appeared one after another. Seeing the appearance of the 2 major powers, everyone's heart was like a mirror. Today, the marriage between Qian Shenmu and Qin Mengruo has a special meaning. The place of the marriage is not in the Qin dynasty or Dong Hazong, but in East Qinyun. This marriage would mean that the 2 top armies in the Eastern Wasteland would officially unite to jointly create the Eastern Qin Yuan. Time passed, and with the arrival of people, in East Qin Yuan, there was ritual music and sounds, there were long beasts, and above the sky, there were phoenixes and birds, flying in the sky above East Keene, all bright the splendor of light fell and turned into a favorable sight. At this time, 2 figures descended from the sky in the sky, they held hands, then fell on the bird, and slowly descended. Both of them were unmatched and were absolutely stunning dresses. To be precise, Qianshan Mu and Qin Mengruo. It is beautiful. Qin Mengruo, who stared at the void in many ways, was very beautiful in a big red dress and Fengawang Xiaxia, like a goddess. Many people seem a little envious of Qianshan Mu, even the top Tianzhao person Dongba Zong is enough to marry a wife like this. The 2 of them descended from the void and landed in the center of the podium, their hands always held, facing the world. King Qin did not come, and suzerain Dong Hazong did not come. The wedding seemed to be missing something, but everyone in the world understood that this wedding held in East Qin Yuan was only symbolic. The strong people of the Qin dynasty and Dong Hazong walked behind them, smiling. King Yu stepped forward and came to Qianshan Mu, looked at the people in front, and said, "Today is a big event for my Qin dynasty in Dong Hazong. The strongest forces in the eastern wasteland are all representatives come and are honored to take this opportunity to uncovering East Qin by a newcomer today." After all, he receded. On Qian Shenmu and Qin Mengruo, a strong breath was released, the dress flew up suddenly, and a violent breath enveloped the pulpit. Suddenly, the podium shook. The eyes of the people around the podium flashed, and they looked at the two in doubt. Then they saw a terrible storm tore the podium slightly, and with a loud sound, the podium collapsed and shattered. The red sky danced in the sky, and the bodies of Qian Shenmu and Qin Mengruo fell. Not only them, but behind them, the bodies of the Qin dynasty in Dong Hazong also began to fall. The eyes blinked, looking back, where a huge monument appeared. This monument is engraved with the great character, Dong Qin Yuan. Seeing the two strong people standing side by side, standing in front of the stone tablet of East Qin, everyone knew what it meant. The disciples looked at the skull, with a sharp light shining in their eyes. The East Qin Yuan formation was clearly aimed at them. Since then, when the Eastern Wasteland mentions the courtyard, I am afraid that the world thinks more than just the Eastern Wasteland. The East Qin Academy opened today and invited the princes of the top powers in the Eastern Wasteland to teach. People from all forces can also train and find ways. In addition, there are nearly 1,000 disciples in the East Qin Academy. In the next 3 months, the East Qin Academy will always choose outstanding people to enter the hospital for training. King Yu of the Qin dynasty said, he saw a large figure in front of him, and said, "Next, I will take you to visit a place." After all, King Yu turned around and walked towards Qin East Qin. The Qin dynasty and the surrounding Dong Hazong people followed, and all the troops rose and followed behind. "King Yu, where did you take him?" After some time, a large crowd came into the open field. In front of them, there was a giant battle platform. In each direction of the battle platform, there were huge stone pillars. The ground is carved with a pattern. These patterns connect the stone pillars. Instantly, endless aura light shone, and gathered into a terrifying light curtain, covering the entire battle platform. This is a giant battle platform wrapped in a French array. This is East Qin Yuan's Budotai. From today onwards, every battle in East Qin Yuan's Budotai will be included in East Qin Yuan's history. King Yu pointed his finger forward and said, "Qianshan Mu and Mengruo's marriage is officiated for East Qin, so East Qin's Budotai will be announced by the two of them. First battle." His voice dropped, and everyone in the room trembled. They naturally understood who the two of them were in King Yu's mouth. The construction of a special martial arts platform by the East Qin Academy can indeed inspire the practice of disciples. The upcoming duel will add a bit of sacred color to this Budotai. At this moment, in the void, I don't know when a figure suddenly appeared. He appeared as if out of nowhere, landed in the sky above Budotai, and landed on a large stone pillar. There was no release of breath from this figure, he stood there very slowly, the wind blew his robes, and the long black hair was also blown by the wind, revealing a delicate and handsome face. Tranquility and serenity is a feeling he gives to everyone. He didn't show a hint of pride, his calm face didn't even see the wave, but when he stood there, it gave off a feeling of looking up. Known as the centuries-old demon Dong Hazong, Lu Nanshan arrived. The appearance of silence appeared on the martial arts platform. He did not declare war, but stood quietly and waited. Everyone knew that from the moment he arrived, his opponent would be coming soon. Sure enough, it didn't take long for the crowd to part ways unknowingly. Many people looked at the separated people, and they saw there. The figure in white clothes walked slowly, and it was also very calm, just like a simple life, stepping towards the martial arts platform. Although it looks like life, it is different from Lu Nanshan. This life has the spirit of readiness, reading the spirit of reading people. Jiu Dongyu, here it is. Seeing the figure stepping towards Budotai, the soldiers couldn't help but hope. On the Budotai stone pillar, Lu Nanshan's eyes looked down, Jiu Dongyu looked up, and the two eyes collided. In an instant, an invisible war broke out that would pervade the world. Chapter 264, The sun is setting over the river finally, here. For the three major events in Choge City, only this battle was the most awaited by all as the outcome was unknown. These two people symbolized the ultimate confrontation between Dong Hazong and the Academy, and had an extremely extraordinary meaning. At this time, there were more people in the crowd, and the main figures of the main forces also quietly descended to watch the battle. I saw Jiu Dongyu step into Budotai step by step. Around the huge battle platform, a light curtain flows, the French array is activated, and the Budotai is wrapped. Obviously, this was to prevent the two people from fighting too hard and reaching out to the people who were watching the battle. Lu Nanshan was still standing on the stone pillar, and the two of them looked at each other, as if in their eyes, only their opponent was left, and everything outside had nothing to do with them. Everyone held their breath, staring at Budotai, silently, looking very quiet. Donghazong disciples clenched their fists and stared at their Donghazong legend. This battle will definitely win, even if the opponent is Jiu Dongyu. Even the Kotang disciples were not so relaxed. The three elder brothers had already said yesterday that he had no guarantee of victory. In addition to the top-level troops, the arrival of other top-level troops was tense, staring at the two figures in the Taichung martial arts. The battle between the two will be the pinnacle of this generation's real fight. At this time, Budotai, on the stone pillar, Lu Nanshan stepped out, stood on the void, and a stream of fire spread out from him. Suddenly, a fire scorched the sky, and the sky and earth around it were imprinted red, like a world of fire. In that world of flames, there appeared a huge divine bird, the sun god bird, the three-legged Jinwu. This is Lu Nanshan's soul. With the soul of life as the center, endless flames coalesced behind him. There was a whirling sun hanging behind him. Gradually, there were 9 huge suns hanging down, and in each sun, there was a black golden bird owl shadow. Inside it, the scorching sun was very high and Jiang was empty. This is Lu Nanshan's far phase. Jiang is in the air, but he is only a top prince. Whether it is soul or far phase, he has evolved to a terrible level. The sky above Budotai was all flowing with flames, and the light curtain surrounding Budotai was all red. The Lu Nanshan realm was the first prince. The princes were 9, and the first was the real supreme prince. He was all over his body, revealing the meaning of the prince. The dazzling flames headed for Jiu Dongyu under the sky, and then condensed and formed in the air, turned into a golden bird with 3 legs, slaughtered, and headed straight for Jiu Dongyu's body. Jiu Dongyu did not have a flowing aura attribute, but he seemed to have an invisible aura. He stood there like an invincible king. Jiu Dongyu glanced at the sight of the giant bird coming out, and his eyes were extremely sharp. From his pupils, he seemed to be released with a terrifying pupil light, which directly pierced the golden bird's 3-foot black shadow. The next moment, the owl image shattered directly and turned into an aura. Everyone looked at him seriously. Although Lu Nanshan was randomly strong, but his opponent was Jiu Dongyu, it was definitely impossible to beat Jiu Dongyu in a simple way. The battle has just begun. The sky above Budotai completely turned into a world of flames, covering the sky and the sun, and the entire world was imprinted with fire marks. Among the 9 rounds of the sun, a sun ***** bird appeared, hanging from all sides, and then devoured the fire and aura of the heavens and the earth, and the body continued to consolidate and become large, covering the battle platform. Is Lu Nanshan a pure fire magician? Ye Fusion whispered. He has the sun life soul and sun far phase, but Lu Nan's life soul is a divine bird, while the far phase is Jiang Dangkong, which is definitely an evolved far phase. Of course not. Luo Fan started, and Lu Nanshan, who had the 3-legged Jinwu far phase of the divine bird, could only take the pure fire mage route. In addition to the 3-legged Jinwu's life soul, in addition to giving Lu Nanshan the fire attribute, there is also golden wind. At the same time, it also allows him to have a strong martial arts talent. After all, it is the soul of a ruthless ***** bird. Of course, other than that ability, Lu Nanshan was still terrible by relying solely on fire spells. At this moment, Budotai seemed to have been completely controlled by his flames. Where's brother? Ye Fusion asked as he looked at Budotai. The last time outside the Qin Palace, Jiu Dongyu only showed a part of his abilities. He could only see that brother was an extremely powerful spiritual destiny mage. In that battle, brother 3 didn't even have a noticeable burst of power. You look good. Lu Nanshan is waiting for Wang Hojing, plus his reputation, he should be able to repel the strength of his brother. Luo Fan's eyes flickered and looked at Budotai, the battle for this powerful Wang Hojing. Still worth watching and learning. Ye Fusion nodded gently. On the martial arts stage, in the world of flames, the golden black bird's shadow was born, all appeared towards Jiu Dongyu. At this moment, it seems that Lu Nanshan has absolute initiative. Jiu Dongyu was killed. Jiu Dongyu's hand was imprinted. Suddenly, a tremendous momentum erupted in his body. The world around him seemed to resonate with his body. The pupil is terrible, and a terrible figure is drawn into the pupil. This sketched figure was actually gathered in the aura with the aura in front of him. Immediately, a faint figure slowly froze, and it was a godlike figure, standing in front of Jiu Dongyu with a terrifying army spirit. When the huge Jinbu godbird was killed, a godlike figure slammed a punch directly, crushing the Jinbu godbird. Summoner. Ye Fusion's eyes bulged. The three brothers turned out to be a powerful summoner, summoning nothingness to fight. In addition, his summoning ability is far from that of Jomuji's original painting sage disciple that can be compared. He summoned with the disciple technique, built the war god with his own imagination, summoned the arrival, and guarded it, no need to describe. This summoned war god is in front of Jiyu Dongyu, and there is a faint mark of an ancient character on his body. At the time of the plague, his breath was terrible, and he slapped with both palms. The owl god image immediately collapsed. However, above the void, endless divine birds came to kill Jiyu Dongyu from all directions. Jiyu Dongyu didn't care, his eyes and pupils looked the other way, and the ghost of the war god condensed and appeared to fight head-on. Furthermore, with the shocking gazes of the people, Jiyu Dongyu summoned 9 different war gods to guard the body, and any attack could not get close. Different ancient characters appeared in the 9 terrifying war gods, and the attack power was also different, but without exception, they were extremely tyrannical. Countless divine birds, like blazing moths, rushed to Jiyu Dongyu's body and was swept away and killed by the war god. Lu Nanshan watched the scene quietly, although they didn't say a word from start to finish. If Jiyu Dongyu only had this power, he would be disappointed. When Jiang was empty, sunlight shone on Jiyu Dongyu, and then, from the sky, a river of fire appeared, connecting Lu Nanshan's and Jiyu Dongyu's space. The sun is setting over the long river. Dong Hazong people are very sharp. I didn't expect to be able to watch brother Lu Nanshan's sunset using Qinghe. The sun set down the Qinghe river, and went towards Jiyu Dongyu. As the sun went down, there were endless Jinbu divine birds flying out of it. In addition to the terrifying flames, it also with a sharp golden gust, destroy everything. Jiyu Dongyu looked up and saw the sunset coming from the Qinghe river. The sun was hanging over his head, and he stood there, only to feel his body burning away. Jiyu Dongyu's palms continued to condense. One by one, the fingerprints entered the 9 war gods, and then the 9 war gods resounded, and at the same time the sound shattered the sky. The terrible Jinbu bird, who was killed by the roar, it was crushed to pieces in this terrible storm of sound. But the sunset continued to fall, and the power was getting stronger and stronger. The warlord rushed out of the body, stepped directly into the river of fire, raised his palm and bombarded the sky, and directly stood the sunset with both hands, covering the sky with one hand. The terrifying sunlight and Jinbu's virtual shadow exploded in the body. He remained motionless, with the ultimate radiance that was eternally immortal. One lap of the sun descended and flowed along the river to Jiyu Dongyu. The 9 suns will continue to descend on the long river, and the power will continue to grow. When Jiang unites, he will have the terrifying power to burn the entire world. Lu Nanshan had once used this trick to defeat one of the 2 realms. The figure of the prince is very strong, and now that he is releasing the sunset from the long river with the figure of the first prince, that power can imagine how terrible it is. I am afraid that not many people can catch this spell in the Eastern Wasteland. Even if all the top forces can compete with this spell, I am afraid that there are very few. Jiyu Dongyu, can you stand it? The Donghazong disciples stared at the battlefield breathlessly, and their eyes were full of enthusiasm. This was their first talent in Donghazong, Lu Nanshan. At the academy, everyone's eyes were on Budotai. Many disciples were even a little worried about Jiyu Dongyu. Lu Nanshan was too strong. Even though Budotai was closed, they couldn't feel how strong the power was, but it was just looking at the scene, it was like being able to realize firsthand how cruel the coercion was. Jiyu Dongyu is a second-rate prince, and he has some weaknesses, Zhu King said. But his fighting strength is truly top tier. Even though Qinghe sunset is already famous throughout the world, if Jiyu Dongyu can't even accept this spell, it won't be Jiyu Dongyu. Another mountain head Zongzu also said, although the academy has an opinion about the hut, it doesn't affect their recognition of the strength of the hut. Bai Shu, if you are on the battlefield, can you accept it? Zhu King asked the chief apprentice Bai Lishu. You can't judge it without actually feeling its power, replied the Book of Miles. Zhu King nodded. He even imagined what would happen if the one fighting was him. Chapter 265, It's Me. Ye Fusion looked at both sides of the battle. The sun was setting in the long river of fire, connected from under the sky. The sun was falling, and the golden blackbird was constantly being exterminated from it, and the entire Budotai was burned into a fiery world. This is the strength of the top princes. If the martial arts platform is not blocked by a French warrior, if a prince wants to open the killing ring, it will be enough to sweep everything away. Not many people can compete. he understands a little why Ye Tianzi and Luo Tianzi have each other regret, do not dare to start a war. This spell matches Lu Nanshan's strength very well, and it should be obtained not just by practicing, Ye Fusion whispered. Of course, this is definitely a transformed spell that matches Lu Nanshan's own talent, so that he can exert such a powerful force that belongs to his creation. Luo Fan nodded and said, there are thousands of magic in the world, countless. However, they were all created by the predecessors. Although they can be used directly to practice, they are not always suitable for everyone. Geniuses can create spell skills and martial arts that match their own abilities. Ye Fusion nodded, the brother taught him by accident. In Budotai, the second round of the sun descends, and the power is even more powerful and multiplied. Jiyu Dongyu still stood calmly. In front of him, the figure of the war god summoned by the 9 gods stood in the 9 directions. Then, Jiyu Dongli condensed the seal and 9 ancient characters emerged from his hand, causing it to explode into a terrifying force. These 9 ancient characters are truly the 9 characters of Taoism. Pro, warrior, fight, people, all, formation, line, front, line. The power of terror swept over, and the truth of the 9 characters constantly appeared in the 9 war gods. At the same time, they condensed the Fa seal, which made the heavens and earth resonate, and the aura dissipated. Every seal is different. Round after round, the sun fell and oppressed, the power continued to increase, but it was unable to break the defense of the 9 war gods. The 3 brothers have practiced many seal martial arts. Ye Fusion whispered, the 9 war gods sealed different seals. These are clearly the 3 controlling brothers. They are all the ability of the 3 brothers to practice. They used the body of the god of war to ward off the long river. The sun has set, it's still early, I don't know how much practice these 3 brothers have. Luo Fan said with a smile. In the hut, who dares to fight against the 3rd brother? People who have done it before are miserable, and then they obey. As for the abilities of the 3 brothers, perhaps the masters know a little. I heard that the 3 brothers went to Dosheng Mountain several times, and asked the brother to discuss with him, and asked the brother to help him practice martial arts. What is master loneliness? Maybe this is it, there are several opponents. Today, Donghazong's Lu Nanshan is one. Of course, the person who is the 3rd most serious brother is also in the hut, naturally it is the 2nd sister. 9 turns of the sun descended along the long river of fire and the sun set. At this moment, the 9 rounds of the sun wanted to burn the sky and wrap the entire space into a solar fire. Jiyu Dongyu and the bodies of the 9 war gods were at the center of this storm. The 9 birds of Jinwu emerged from the fight, and the deep red color was very impressive. At almost the same time, the 9 characters in the body of the 9 war gods broke out violently, and Fain exploded. The bodies of the 9 war gods each pounced on the sun. Power destroys everything. Everyone saw that the heavens and the earth went ruthlessly, like the final battle of the law, the 9 war gods went to the sun, smashed the Jinwu bird, and exploded into the sun. The 9 suns and several war gods erupted at the same time, radiating in all directions, and a ray of terrifying power hit the Budotai light curtain, causing the light curtain to tremble, and the whole Budotai trembled. The French array was a bit unstable and collapsed. This law formation is arranged by many top figures of the Qin and Donghazong dynasty, which can hardly be shaken. However, the battle between the 2 people shocked the law formation. You can imagine how terrible the battle might be. Here he is. Everyone's heart trembled, looking at Budotai. The setting sun disappeared without a shadow, the sun fell, and the ghost of the war god summoned by Jiyu Dongyu was also destroyed. In the fiery red world, Jiyu Dongyu still stood there steadily, as if no force could shake him. Even though Lu Nanshan's magical sunset was once world famous, he still couldn't let him get the slightest bit of shame. In the empty sky, Lu Nanshan stood proudly in the air, like a sun god, and the sunset was blocked, but there was not much mishap in his eyes. The 3 disciples in the cottage were famous. Behind Lu Nanshan, in the sun phase, the golden fire sword with the hilt bloomed, and then turned into a rain of sun, falling down towards Jiyu Dongyu under the sky. The speed is too fast, this is the real rain of the sun sword. If the person facing him is not Jiyu Dongyu but a group of princes, I am afraid that he can wipe out all opponents. Jiyu Dongyu stood there quietly, and an extremely terrifying aura erupted on him, with the light of ancient words permeating from him, and a terrifying spiritual power shrouding the space in front of him. When the sun sword fell rain, he stopped suddenly in front of him. Zhu, 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 a sharp and hoarse voice came out, and a rain of sun swords came frantically, shaking the invisible force. Jiu Dongyu stepped forward and saw his white clothes fluttering, his sharp eyes stared at the endless rain of sun swords, and a cold voice came out of his mouth, broken. It sounded like a boulevard. The moment the voice fell, the endless rain of swords instantly collapsed and shattered. Wherever his voice passed, it seemed to split a path. When the rain sword in front of him collapsed, suddenly, the real Jinwu Godbird came to the extreme, and directly broke through the invisible barrier of mental power that was blooming by Jiu Dongyu. This terrifying Jinwu Godbird gripping the great sword bathed in the sun was slain towards Jiu Dongyu. This sword is very powerful and can kill anyone who gets in his way. As soon as the white ghost flashed, the golden black bird that was approaching the limit whistled past, but the sword stabbed in the air. Jiu Dongyu's figure appeared elsewhere, still standing on the martial arts platform. Fast speed. Everyone's heart trembled. The speed of the 3-foot golden black bird almost reached the limit, and it came almost instantly. In addition, Lu Nanshan still stands there in the void, Jinwu's bird, but Lu Nanshan's legal aspects. His image has now grown to be comparable to that of a monstrous monster king. What about Jiu Dongyu's law? They then noticed that even at this moment, Jiu Dongyu had not given up his life, soul and laws. This can't help but make many people have a strange look. Is it possible that even at this time, Jiu Dongyu is still hiding his strength? The others would ignore it, but Lu Nanshan would not. He had long since realized that Jiu Dongyu had not let go of his soul and laws, but he still looked calm. The sun and swords rained down and went towards Jiu Dongyu. At the same time, the terrifying Jinwu divine bird continued to kill Jiu Dongyu, who was holding the sun Excalibur. Lu Nanshan wanted to see what steps Jiu Dongyu could take without giving up the far phase. Jiu Dongyu's figure disappeared again out of thin air, shifting and changing positions, as fast as lightning. At the same time, a terrifying sharpness pervaded his body, as if the incarnation of the most terrifying magic weapon. His hands nirvana suddenly, a terrifying sword whistled from the sky, and Jiu Dongyu pointed forward. With his finger pointing at the place, a sword array appeared, as if it was born from the condensation of ancient characters. This sword series rotated wildly, and the ancient characters soared. When the golden black bird and the rain of sun swords came, he pointed a finger forward and pressed it, and for a moment, erased the void. The sun sword and the sword array collided madly, and then retreated back to Lu Nanshan. As for the rain sun sword, it was impossible to get close to Jiu Dongyu's body. There are too many means for the three brothers. Ye Fusion's heart trembled. The practitioners in the world have many strong destiny masters, both martial arts and mastery of various attributes. He can summon the void god of war to fight, he can explode a terrifying power with 9 ancient characters, he is good at magic, and his spiritual attack is just as terrifying. Today, he is also good at sword formation. This range is too big, and every ability is too strong. Read more. Zhu Ye glanced at Ye Fusion and smiled. Will you copy me? 4 brothers, you can copy it yourself. Ye Fusion shuddered, and this kind of thing did not kill him. Ah, another day should be suggested by the second and third eldest brother. Zhu Ye sighed. The third elder said that for people who are good at various talents, they should read more books. Like a genius, like a younger brother, copying books with me is the best way to practice. 4 brothers, I have to recommend more to the second sister to let the brothers go down the mountain more, Ye Fusion said. Zhu's eyes brightened, then he smiled brightly, and said, since then, the best way for young master to practice is to follow his own heart. Can you be serious? Luo Fan looked at them with disdain. Those who really win or not, are all 3 brothers, Zhu Ye said lightly, as if he had absolute faith in the 3 brothers. The vast space around Budotai, many people staring at the battlefield, were all blocked by the strength of the 2. Although Jiu Dongyu is famous throughout the world, not many people have witnessed the battle for fame. He only knows his strength is terrible, but no one knows how strong he is. Now, they finally had a chance to see the arrogance of the 3 disciples in the hut. In Budotai, 2 figures stood in the void in the ground, staring at each other and stopping the attack. Jiu Dongyu looked at Lu Nanshan. His book business is full of endless determination. At this time, he opened his mouth and spoke the first sentence to Lu Nanshan. It's me. Jiu Dongyu's voice dropped, and he lifted his feet and stepped forward. The next moment, his body disappeared. In front of Lu Nanshan, his figure appeared. An invisible mental storm rushed in instantly, and a pair of terrifying pupils seemed to let Lu Nanshan fall. Then, Jiu Dongyu moved his fingers forward to release Jianzhu, and the shot was like a thunder. Chapter 266, Peak Fight. When the Qin dynasty and Donghazong saw this scene, they understood that Jiyu Dongyu went to make people outside the Qin palace in the past. He didn't come out at all. No wonder he only made the Donghazong strongman afraid to make a move. Today, Jiyu Dongyu really showed his abilities. The terrifying mental attack and the sword tactic came at the same time, and Lu Nanshan sank in an instant. But Lu Nanshan was a man as famous as the power of the drums, how could he be so easily defeated? When Jiang is empty, the three-legged Jinwu enters the Fa phase, and then his body also gradually enters the Fa phase, and he becomes one with the Fa phase. At this time, the 9-9 turned into 1, and the 9 solar cycles turned into 1. The Jinwu divine bird shone in the sun, and Lu Nanshan, his figure also fused into the shadow of the sun god bird, and the Jinwu divine bird turned into illusory light enveloped Lu Nanshan's body, and the sun's fire flooded the body in panic. At this moment, Lu Nanshan was like a sun god. In the next moment, Lu Nanshan raised his hand and looked ahead. A large and huge Jinwu ***** bird appeared, and the sun's fire melted into the body. He opened his mouth and spat out an endless sun sword. At this time, the martial arts swords in Taichung are vertical and horizontal, and the magic circle is shaking. The overwhelming divine power seems to be not the battle of the prince, but the battle of the gods. Jianzhu collapsed with the Jinwu divine bird, but Jiyu Dongyu disappeared as soon as he took a step, and he changed shape, and then everyone saw that there were a lot of Jiyu Dongyu remains. Taking Lu Nanshan as in the middle, there was the outbreak of the sword tactics, the seal of the sky, unlimited power, and he would kill her on the spot. Even though Lu Nanshan was as dazzling as a god, he still suffered from mental attacks. He seemed to be trapped into the world of Jiyu Dongyu's disciples. To outsiders, he was like a god, but he knew what kind of situation he was currently in. The magic of the martial arts spell was followed by the ancient words, and he gathered all his strength to fight it, but the opponent's attack still exploded into the sun, causing the hot sun to tremble, and the sun seemed to crumble. Boom! The raging flames burned the heavens and the earth, and Lu Nanshan finally made his move. As if he had turned into a divine bird, he moved while dodging Jiyu Dongyu's attack, and appeared right in front of Jiyu Dongyu's shadow. A terrifying attack shot out from his palm and turned into a sun god bird that destroyed everything. Jiyu Dongyu was not afraid, and the two immediately attacked each other. So under the shocking gazes of the people, they saw the two fighting closely, the martial arts towered above, the entire martial arts platform shook, and the magic array was unstable. Two people without weakness. Countless people watching the battle between the two trembled. Whether it's magic or martial arts, they are extremely powerful, and even very well combined. The attack defense was perfect. This peak battle might be difficult for future generations to surpass. Jiyu Dongyu is superior. Some prince figures have sharp eyes and can see the situation on the battlefield. Although Jiyu Dongyu's realm was slightly inferior, he was good at mental attacks. When the two fought, Lu Nanshan still had to endure the impact of his mental attack, but was left behind. The rhythm of attacking was not as smooth as Jiyu Dongyu. Defensive measures would be taken when attacking, but Jiyu Dongyu's attacks would not. Bang! At this time, with a loud voice, Budotai shuddered, and people's eyes froze, staring at Budotai. Lu Nanshan was beaten. At that moment, Jiyu Dongyu broke through the defense, and Faju charged into the curtain of sunlight, hit Lu Nanshan's body, and hit him back. The eyes of the Donghazong people were glued there, some couldn't believe it. The people of the Qin dynasty also frowned. In this battle, the lord of the Dongba sect told the Qin king that he would win. However, at this moment, Lu Nanshan had no advantage at all. I saw Lu Nanshan's eyes looking at the chest, there was blood leaking there, many eyes looked at him, the blood seemed to be hot in the flames, and then disappeared into a ray of blood. At this time, among the crowd, a figure appeared calmly, she was very beautiful, pure and flawless, as if she was not a worldly person. But even if he is extraordinary, no one notices his current existence, and everyone's eyes are fixed on that battlefield. However, Lu Nanshan cast a ray of gaze over there, seeing a flawless, peaceful face, Lu Nanshan's expression was very calm. As if he had noticed Lu Nanshan's gaze, many people looked in that direction, and then saw a calm and pure figure appear there, and many people immediately guessed his identity. Donghazong's daughter, Hua Kangqing, was also Lu Nanshan's fiancée. A beautiful woman was not the same as Qin Mengruo and Chuzan. Her beauty is pure and flawless. There is no noble and holy Qin Mengruo and no Chu touch. It is pure beauty, as if it is not colored with the earth. Such a woman, just at a glance, seemed very comfortable. Now, did he come to help Nanshan? Lu Nanshan's eyes moved back to Jiyu Dongyu, and Jiyu Dongyu who repelled him did not attack. They are very clear in their hearts. If Lu Nanshan only had this power, the victory would be divided. Required. Of course, Jiu Dongyu would not hate his opponents, especially Dong Hazong, who claimed to be rare for hundreds of years. I saw Lu Nanshan's eyes become extremely extreme, and then, on his body, the light of the sun shot out, the halo continued to expand, and a world fire appeared into the world, with Lu Nanshan as the center. This world seems to be transformed. Like the world of the sun, it burns out. Budotai, the vast battlefield, the fire came, the battlefield was lit a little, and the flames became more and more, until the whole battlefield began to burn. In the world of flames, there was a faint whistling sound, and everyone looked at the scene in shock, their hearts shaking. This what happened. On Lu Nanshan's body, a brilliant sun aura appeared, he seemed to turn into Yang, into a real god, every ray of light and every thought in his body could be turned into a celestial fire. This flame burns all the fires in the world, and the array is also ignited. Furthermore, the array of lights of Budotai expanded with flames, and the vast array of Budotai sphere was also burning at this time. This surprise. At this moment, people's hearts trembled with madness, and the law array was burned. At this moment, the intensity of the fire released by Lu Nanshan had surpassed the law array. This law formation was carved by the top princes of the top two armies, and is now shattered. What does it mean? The flames broke through the shackles of the magic circle, and the endless fire aura between heaven and earth headed towards Lu Nanshan. In the world of flames, Jiu Dongyu stood in it and looked very lonely. The fire finally stopped spreading, but the circle was broken, and the people in the vast space around them could immediately feel the meaning of the flame. Flames of fire blaze in the world of flames. At this moment, Lu Nanshan was a god. When those top princes felt the will in the flames, they couldn't help but tremble. Was it the power that made them all feel palpitated? Was it the legendary power of will? Prince King Yu's eyes are very sharp, watching the battlefield. Is this the belief of Dongwa suzerain? No wonder he thought Lu Nanshan would win. Lu Nanshan was known as a hard-to-get genius for hundreds of years in Dong Hazong. Now it seems that not only Dong Hazong, but even the entire eastern wasteland, for hundreds of years, few people can compare. Among the crowd, Wang Wezong's leaders sighed, making Wang Wezong's disciples tremble. Virgin Chu Jume looked at the elders and said, "Uncle, what ability is this?" The current Donghang realm seems to be the next generation, and the strength of Lu Nanshan and Jiu Dongyu is enough to compete with the leaders of the major forces. The elder said, not only Wang Wezong's disciples, everyone present really felt what the speak battle meant. Once, a great disciple of Kotang descended the mountain and challenged the sword master Fuyun. Now, do the three disciples in Kotang and Nanshan Donghazong already have such strength? Ye Fusion naturally felt the willpower that enveloped the flames, and there was a sense of familiarity. Brother, does this mean a sage? Ye Fusion looked at the battlefield and asked. Lo Fan nodded. This is wise indeed. Above the prince, it is the world of the sages. Now, Lu Nanshan, he had realized the power of a sage. How many sages are there in the East today? Some people claim that there may not be, and some people think that some people hide their strength, and there may be wise figures like sages. But after all, the sage is in the eastern wasteland, which is an absolute existence. At this time, Lu Nanshan released a ray of wise intent how not to make people tremble, so that the strong person Wang Wezong will say that even if placed in the eastern desert, few people can stand by his side. Sage, one thought is law. Although Lu Nanshan was not a sage, he had control over the strength of a sage. At this moment, Lu Nanshan shone brilliantly, and the aura of heaven and earth resounded under his control. The endless flames went to Jiu Dongyu, turned into a golden blackbird, turned into a rain of sun swords, and turned into a world fire. Jiu Dongyu's body is flickering, reaching its limit, but the laws of the world are everywhere, no matter how fast, how can you get past Nanshan's mind? An explosive sound came out, Jiu Dongyu's body was hit and propped up, his body seemed to be on fire, and was almost on fire. Bathed in white flames, a mighty and strong Hut student, now, was he finally defeated. The myth would end in the East Keen Academy. Will Lu Nanshan step on the Hut to become an invincible legend? Jiu Dongyu looked at Lu Nanshan, dancing in a bathrobe with a fiery flame, and suddenly an incomparably dazzling light burst into his body. Lin. A voice came out of Jiu Dongyu's mouth, the voice fell, a huge ancient word turned into light, and fell behind him. Bing. Do. That person. All. The set. Column. Previously. Okay. 9 characters were read out, heaven and earth resonated, and eternal glory erupted in his body. In the next moment, a very illusory figure appeared behind Jiu Dongyu, just like his illusion, 9 characters swirling, like Shinhwa. The ghost is like a fairy coming, like a descending god. Chapter 267, Win or Lose. The change in Jiyu Dongyu's eyes flashed. Is this the aspect? Behind the extremely terrifying fairy shadow, the 9 ancient characters orbiting around, at this moment, the aura of the heavens and the earth resonated with Jiyu Dongyu's body, an extremely terrifying power permeated from him, and the surroundings killed him. The fire spell was destroyed by the shock. Fa Xiang apparently entered the soul of life, but what is the soul? Is it a ghost image, or an old spell? The terrible fire burned, but the 9 character light shone shining, making Jiyu Dongyu a 9 character light curtain around the body. Apart from the illusionary ancient character around the body, the fire could not penetrate, and at the same time, the aura between the heavens and the earth seemed shocking, resonating with Juzi. On Lu Nanshan, the sage meaning enveloped the vast endless space, making the sun god bird continuously appear, holding the sun Excalibur, and killing towards Jiyu Dongyu. Today's attack is more than the previous release of the sunset on the Long River by Lu Nanshan. At that time, it was too strong, and every attack contained the power of sage. Jiyu Dongyu didn't see it. He stepped forward, stepped into the void, and the world around him shook. There are thousands of ancient characters all over the body. Then he turned into a huge palm method and continued to kill him. The attacks collided. For a time, a terrible turbulent air riot spread around Budotai. Many strong men stepped forward, released a strong breath into their bodies, and stood at the forefront to block after the battle. On the academy side, Zhu King also took a step forward. An invisible water spell bloomed on the light curtain like a mirror, blocking the power swept away by the madness. But his gaze was still fixed on the Budotai in front. In this battle, even as the head of the mountain, he still felt shock from his heart. Both Lu Nanshan and Jiyu Dongyu were too strong. At this time, on the martial arts stage, Lu Nanshan thought of the law, and magic rose to the sky, destroying everything. Jiyu Dongyu Zhou, surrounded by thousands of ancient characters, resonated with heaven and earth, his body seemed to contain the highest power. Surrounded by thousands of ancient characters, the ghost behind Jiyu Dongyu was like an immortal body. 9 characters turned into 9 lights. At this moment, Jiyu Dongyu, who was bathed in fairy light, became even more extraordinary. He walked step by step, wherever he passed, the spell broke on its own, and no spell could approach him. Even if Lu Nanshan bloomed sage power, but what? Fighting. I saw Jiyu Dongyu condense his hands, and the endless ancient figures fluttered and roared in front of him. Gradually, a seal is formed. At this moment, the heavens and the earth around him seemed to tremble at once. At this moment, Jiyu Dongyu rules the world. Behind him, the ghost of an ancient character flew out and landed on the French seal, making the French seal even more powerful. King Linian. Jiyu Dongyu made a sound, Fame killed him, everything he passed was crushed, and went straight to Lu Nanshan. Lu Nanshan saw this scene, and the calm eyes at this moment finally had an unprecedented dignity. He knew that the time for the decisive battle was coming. The opponent he was currently facing was the strongest Jiyu Dongyu. The world of fire riots, endless fire towards Lu Nanshan, and the gold and wind attributes at this time. At this time, Lu Nanshan was completely burned, and his momentum rose crazily, as if surpassing the prince's will was enough to kill the prince. The possession of the bird, like the sun god, Lu Nanshan swung the sun god's sword at the ancient calligraphy printed and killed. A loud sound, the ancient seal shook, and then a crack appeared, as if it could collapse at any moment. Fighting seal of fighting. The endless ancient characters flew in and turned into a very terrible French seal, full of incomparable fighting power, and once again killed Lu Nanshan. Lu Nanshan stared ahead, his body was very strong, behind him the sun god whistled, collided with France and India, and the world shook. Break the seal, the mysterious warrior screamed and turned into a Fa seal, invincible. King Kong seal. Hey Tianyan. Jiyu Dongyu continued to make noises. 9 seals appeared between heaven and earth. Endless ancient characters roaming between heaven and earth. Against the ability of the sage, the 9-shaped seal was condensed, born unbroken, and madly killed Lu Nanshan. At this moment, the crowd saw Lu Nanshan madly resisting the seal of the 9 heavens and earth. The 9-character spell that floated around his body was enormous, and thousands of ancient characters fell from it. The people watching the battle seemed to have stopped breathing. They never thought that this battle could be so fierce, even if the two sides of the battle were Lu Nanshan and Jiyu Dongyu. It's too strong. In the battle between the Sword Master and the Fuyun Sect Master, perhaps this was the case. The liberation of the sage in Lu Nanshan, everyone thought he would win, there would be no tension in this battle. However, the disciples of Kotang did not seem to allow the destruction of the myth, and Jiu Dongyu, the strongest, changed his strength again and became an invincible prince. How many people could compete with Jiu Dongyu like this? Dong Hazong's disciple is no longer so confident. At this time Jiu Dongyu is too smart. His body had landed in front of Lu Nanshan, surrounded by 9 characters, and the immortal body behind him was immortal. When he came down, the ancient words that fell became stronger, such as turned into a 9-character formation. France and India continued to kill Lu Nanshan. Bang, bang, bang. Lu Nanshan stood there, and the endless ancient Chinese calligraphy came and killed him. The power around him continued to oscillate, and the sun covering his body shook. There was great tenacity in his eyes. This battle is not only his fight, but also represents Dong Hazong. The vast world, the flames came, and the image of the endless ***** bird ghost also merged into Lu Nanshan's body. His will is released. At this moment, Lu Nanshan seemed to have entered a state of selflessness. His body suddenly disappeared, turning into an illusion. At the same time, his figure appeared in another space, and the ancient characters around him seemed to be burning. Then, there were many Lu Nanshan figures in this space, each of them possessed the terrifying power to destroy everything, and their ultimate goal was only one, Jiu Dongyu. Jiu Dongyu fluttered with long hair. He sensed threats everywhere around him, and his appearance was sharp as ever. The legal entity behind him gave off an incomparable coercion, and Juzi spun around furiously. He put his hand on his and made a sound, 9 Indians back into 1, kill. Then, everyone saw a magnificent scene, and Lu Nanshan's endless figure was heading towards Jiu Dongyu at the same time. Similarly, the ancient characters boundless in heaven and earth, countless French seals also gathered towards Jiu Dongyu. Suddenly the room was filled with quakes and roars. People seemed to see the destruction of Nan Tian's shadow, and they also saw Jiu Dongyu's terrifying attack, but he stood still as if immortal body. He released a terrible glory, like a fairy body. The power of heaven and earth was used by him, and he merged with him. The next moment, people seemed to see the sun spin centered on Jiu Dongyu and extending outward. Heaven and earth seemed to be on fire. Careful. The elders of all major forces felt a strong coercion. Many first-rate princes stepped forward to unleash their power and set defensive spells. At one time, countless arrays of defensive light curtains appeared around Budotai, blocking the terrifying aftermath. The shaking and clicking sound continued, and many spells were even cracked or even shattered. What pressure did the two fighting men experience? They stared ahead, and they could no longer see Lu Nanshan and Jiu Dongyu. The two of them were in the middle of a storm. The aftermath continued for a moment before the mighty power gradually dissipated, and at the same time, in the endless flame of light, everyone faintly saw the two standing there. The two of them stood there quietly, looking at each other. Time seems to stand still. The people drew their spells and stared at the two of them. Many people held their breath, especially from Dong Hazong and the academy. Finally, under the gazes of the people, Lu Nanshan's body fell. Brother. Later. Dong Hazong's heart trembled, like a collapse of faith. Many people came forward and rushed to Budotai to lift Lu Nanshan, but saw that he stretched his arms in the air and blocked everyone's actions. Blood continued to flow out of the mouth, and the peerless figure of Dong Hazong looked very embarrassed at this time. But he can still get up and not get anyone to help. He glanced at Jiu Dongyu. He almost didn't turn around, and staggered away, leaving step by step. At this time, he was walking with his dog on his body. His footsteps were soft and unstable, and he was obviously seriously injured. Lu Nanshan, he was defeated. But can you say that it is not strong? Dong Hazong, can you blame him? Seeing that shocking figure, many people were moved. In the world of practitioners, defeat was always humiliating, but at this moment, no one felt that Lu Nanshan's defeat was shameful. Defeat is also a hero. Lu Nanshan's strength was enough to stand at the highest level in the Eastern Wasteland. No one had the right to laugh at his defeat. How many people can overcome the vast Eastern Wasteland? I can only regret that if there is Lu Nanshan, why is there such a place as a thatched hut? There are 3 disciples in the thatched hut, Jiu Dongyu. Countless eyes fell on Jiu Dongyu's body. In the past, Jiu Dongyu was famous in the First World War. Prince Dong Hazong, who was abolished in the First World War outside the Qing Palace, let people know how proud the 3 Kotang disciples were. Today's battle, people are really aware that the 3 cottage disciples can already coexist with the giants of the Eastern Wasteland. Another figure stood above. Over the past few hundred years in the Eastern Wasteland, Tianzhao Lu Nanshan, the most evil person of all ages, was strong enough to realize the power of a sage, but even so he was defeated. Today, the duel between Dong Hazong and the peerless cottage Tianzhao is still the victor. Myths are immortal, and legends are still legends. Qing dynasty and Dong Hazong wanted to destroy the legend, but with Lu Nanshan's strength, he still failed. Thatched hut, what a place that is. Chapter 268, Guards Kotang's pupils have been sealed. Today's battle, Jiyu Dongyu, the three cottage disciples, is enough to seal the gods. No one knew what the hut was like, because no one but the hut members lived in the hut, not even in the academy. That magical place was the sacred ground in the hearts of countless geniuses in the eastern wasteland. Jiyu Dongyu turned around, his figure was still straight, even if his clothes were a little messy, and even a trace of burning appeared, but what about it? Many ways of looking at him, only respect and admiration, even for people outside the academy. The same that kind of Jiyu Dongyu is naturally worthy of respect, not only him, but also Lu Nanshan who was defeated. If not for Jiyu Dongyu, the person who sealed the gods today would be Lu Nanshan. Brother. Zuye Luo Fan and the others stepped forward. Jiyu Dongyu said, "Go." With that said, he took the lead to leave, and Zuye and the others seemed to realize that they were all behind Jiyu Dongyu. Ye Fusion felt the same way, and followed Jiyu Dongyu to leave with the rest of his life. Ye Fusion. At this moment, a voice came out suddenly and broke the silence. Ye Fusion's eyes flashed to the speaker, and he saw the Qing dynasty crowd next to him. Started, in the past, you stole the Yin family's 5-element stick and the magic tripod. Today, I also want to teach some of the strengths of Kotang disciples. You're not worth it. Ye Fusion glanced at each other indifferently, and then continued to follow Jiyu Dongyu. They let their eyes stiffen and stared indifferently at Ye Fusion's departing figure, saying, Kotang apprentice. Good and bad. He's injured. Qing Yu looked at the figure that Jiyu Dongyu left, and everyone looked at Qing Yu, and he also agreed in his heart that Jiyu Dongyu should be injured. The final blow was too terrible. As strong as Lu Nanshan fell directly, Jiyu Dongyu could not be safe and sound. But he still stands, and standing is victory. Moreover, he left with a straight body, even if injured. What an honor to go so far. Of course, he had the qualifications to be proud of, and few people in the entire East Wasteland were more qualified to be proud of than him. Jiyu Dongyu was indeed injured. When they walked out of the East Qin Academy, a huge and endless figure outside the East Qin Academy was waiting there. When they saw Jiyu Dongyu step out, the crowd suddenly boiled over. Someone immediately asked, who is this battle? Win. Snowy Night. Jiyu Dongyu shouted. Zuye understood, holding Jiyu Dongyu's arm, and then a group of people straight into the air and went into the distance. Seeing the people outside, the scene exploded instantly. Noise. Jiyu Dongyu, he let Zuye take him to heaven. Jiyu Dongyu may be injured, and it is very heavy. Many people speculate. There was a commotion. If Jiyu Dongyu was seriously injured, did that mean the hut was defeated? Otherwise, why would Kotang's disciples leave? But there was silence in the East Qin Academy. No one except the Kotang disciples came out to find out the results. They were so anxious that they immediately entered the academy to inquire about the outcome of the war. Who is the winner of this world-famous peak battle? The Kotang disciples lived not far from the East Qin Academy, and soon they returned to their residences. As soon as they landed, Jiyu Dongyu vomited blood, his face turned pale, and the breath of the whole person became a little weak. Brother. The people around exclaimed, very nervous, and supported Jiyu Dongyu to sit down. It doesn't matter. Jiyu Dongyu sat there and waved, now I feel better. Lu Nanshan is an honorable opponent. Some people agree that Jiyu Dongyu's words, being able to fight with the third brother so far, is indeed an honorable opponent. Brother, Lu Nanshan has fallen. Even if the world sees you injured, why endure it? Zuye said. He naturally understood that the three brothers held their breath for a while, which was very unfavorable for injuries. Cottage student, don't fall. Jiyu Dongyu looked at Zuye, Luo Fan, and the others, and said, this is nothing to be proud of. Today's lodges are too sharp. They attract the attention of the world. The eyes of everyone in the eastern region are looking at those cottages. In this way, the hut can only stay strong forever, otherwise it will be a disaster. When they heard Jiyu Dongyu's words, they thought deeply and understood them vaguely. Where did the thatched hut's reputation come from? 2 brilliant battles placed the thatched hut sanctuary in the eastern desert. Because of this, there was a lot of light watching over them. Why did the Qing dynasty and Dong Hazong team up against academies and thatched huts? Wasn't that the reason why the hut was too sharp? The last time in the Qing dynasty, the two armies joined forces to suppress Ye Fusion, and even almost killed the rest of his life. This was not a test of the hut, so Jiu Dongyu went straight to the Qin palace and wiped out the Donghazong prince. It was because of the pride of the lodge, and it was also a warning to the world that the students of the lodge were unmovable. Therefore, Jiu Dongyu could not fall. As long as he and Dao Sheng did not fall, no one would dare to move the hut so easily. On the other hand, once the legend falls, the hut will no longer be a hut, and the hut with only 8 disciples will be able to withstand a slight loss. The fall of a person is a disaster for the lodge. Snowy night, Luo Fan. Jiu Dongyu looked at the 2 younger brothers and said, "When you reach my kingdom, the thatched hut will be able to stand firmly in the eastern desert." Zuye and Luo Fan nodded their heads, never seriously. They knew that the 3 brothers bear the responsibility, which is the glory of the cottage, so that he can bear it even after being seriously injured. Dong Hazong's disciple, Lu Nanshan, was strong to this extent. Is Master Dong Hazong weaker than his disciples? In addition, there must be some terrible old man in the background of Dong Hazong. There is a little lion, Fusion, all your life, you have to work hard. Jiu Dongyu also looked at Ye Shaoxi and Ye Fusion. A gentle smile really appeared on his face. Currently he is no longer like they are 3 strict brothers, more like gentle elders, taking care of their growth. Only then did Ye Fusion feel that the original thatched hut was also bearing such pressure. The 3 brothers are sure that when I reach the brother realm, the hut will be immortal. Ye Fusion smiled brightly and looked at Jiu Dongyu. Now, brothers and sisters should rest and heal. Okay. Jiu Dongyu looked at Ye Fusion and nodded solemnly. The person who knows me, the solution to my arrogance, the person who doesn't know me, why not give up? I believe you can do it. I will work hard. Ye Fusion nodded with a smile. The teacher said that he hopes that the cottage will become a real holy place in Donghang, and all the students in the cottage will work for this. Jiu Dongyu's eyes had a touch of light, extremely bright. Ye Fusion looked at him. Is this the teacher's ideal? What does Holy Land really mean? Ellipsis, ellipsis, ellipsis. In the East Qin Academy, everyone saw Jiu Dong leave, and they were all very restless in their hearts. They agreed with Qin Yu's words. Jiu Dongyu was injured, but this did not prevent Jiu Dongyu from becoming a generation of legends. The people present from the top forces and first-rate forces in the Eastern Wasteland, many great figures were in. However, no one had the confidence to surpass Jiu Dongyu. Watching this battle is rewarding. Qin Yu looked around at the crowd and said, "Today the first battle of the East Qin Academy opened, the Budotai battle opened, the battle of the 2 great evil spirits, both of them were defeated. It can be said to be passed down for a long time." Everyone's eyes flashed. This Qin Yu is also cunning, only to say that the 2 defeats are painful, not to mention the victory. Perhaps the end of this battle also spoiled his plans. However, no one denies Qin Yu. Everyone saw it and knew it well, and what Qin Yu said was not wrong. It was indeed a battle handed down from the world. Nothing would lower Lu Nanshan's strength. With Juyu in front, the princes all come from far away. It is rare for Donghang Tianzhou to come together, and people from various first-class forces come to join us. I can't afford to disappoint everyone. Qin Yu slowly spoke. From tomorrow, my East Qin Academy will set up a battle platform outside the academy. The disciples of the East Qin Academy will be willing to discuss with the Donghang people. I hope that at that time, I can see the style of the disciples of all forces. After saying that, he looked at the academy again, and continued, especially Donghang Academy. I don't know if there are still people like Jiu Dongyu. I believe Donghang Academy will not disappoint the world. Everyone's eyes bulged. Of course, the defeated East Qin Academy will not stop there, and it is ready to continue the debate between the Eastern Famine forces, and the main thing is to challenge the Eastern Fear Academy with the East Qin Academy. Chapter 269, Group Battle. Everyone in Donghang Academy looked at Qin Yu, and Lu Nanshan was defeated, so he wanted to start with their academy disciples to recover face. There was a cold light in Zhu Kang's eyes, and she wanted to see what the East Qin Academy had prepared for them other than Lu Nanshan. East Qin Academy opened to summon people in Donghang to come here, and I hope that the world will not be disappointed. Bai Lishu said to Qin Yu, there is a hidden quarrel. All the troops present were vaguely expecting what would happen tomorrow. In addition, Qin Yu claims to be the people of the Eastern Famine Army to Ayu, and all the troops in the Eastern Famine can participate. For many people, they also want to try and see how the genius figures of each power compare to themselves. Furthermore, the power of the people has gone in succession. Outside the East Qin Academy, a huge and endless crowd is still waiting here. When the people of all the major forces stepped out, they immediately boiled over, and one after another asked questions. wanting to know the situation of the East in fierce battle war. However, people from all forces left Yukong directly, and they didn't seem interested, even the disciples in the academy left immediately. This made the hearts of many people darken. Could it be that Jiu Dongyu's hut was really defeated? Predecessor Mu, what about this battle? Someone asked the Choge city elder, who was clearly an acquaintance. The two defeats hurt, but Lu Nanshan fell. An old man replied, his words fell, and suddenly many people looked at this side. The two defeats were painful, and Lu Nanshan fell, and the victory and defeat were natural. Jiu Dongyu's thatched hut won. Unexpectedly, Lu Nanshan was praised as a rare demon who had not been seen for hundreds of years, but he still lost. It seems that Dong Hazong was mentioned. Someone sighed. Not. The old man shook his head. Lu Nanshan deserves this reputation. Everyone turned their eyes. They saw a touch of respect in the old man's eyes, and said solemnly, in order to understand the strength of the sage, there are few people in Donghang who can do it. Now, with Lu Nanshan's strength, it is enough to stand before Donghang several giants in living conditions as fair, Ye Xie, and she met 3 Kotang disciples. After all, he sighed and left, regretting Lu Nanshan, and at the same time regretting Jiu Dongyu's strength. His voice fell, and the people around him stood there, understanding the power of the sage, and standing shoulder to shoulder with the giants of the East. Suddenly, they had an infinite longing for an unseen battle, but unfortunately they couldn't witness it. Soon, the news quickly spread to Choge city. Choge shook, and many people set off a thunderous wave. All of them sighed that they could not witness the battle with their own eyes. It was comparable to the battle that the Sword Master and Fuyun Sword Sovereign took place not far from them, at the East Keen Academy. However, I heard that there will be a debate between the East and the Keen Academy tomorrow, and everyone is feeling better. Finally, I can see it with my own eyes. I can't miss it tomorrow. Dong Keen Academy invited the Donghang army to discuss martial arts, which was sure to be another big event. The Kotang disciples ignored the sounds of the outside world, and the 3 brothers were injured. Kotang's disciples did not feel the joy of victory. Although this battle can be called the battle of the gods, for them, the 3rd brother's body is the most important. Luo Fan escorted Jiu Dongyu to the night and returned to the hut. Some people continue to live in Choge city in snowy night. This matter is not over yet. Jiu Dongyu defeated Lu Nanshan. Dong Hazong in the Qin dynasty were naturally the most unhappy. In addition, some people are very unhappy. For example, Hiziro and Luo Junlin from the king's palace. They also witnessed the entire process of this battle. Jiu Dongyu is too strong, but the stronger he is, the more uncomfortable Luo Junlin will be, which means that it will be more difficult to kill Ye Fusion. They all knew that if Jiu Dong was defeated, the meaning would be completely different. But Jiu Dongyu won, so no matter who he was, even the Qin dynasty and Dong Hazong who wanted to transfer the disciples, they had to weigh him down, let alone him. Luo Junlin felt very depressed because he found that it would be increasingly difficult to kill Ye Fusion this way. After all, Ye Fusion himself was growing up. With his talent, plus a place like Thatched Hut, sooner or later, he would become another person like Jiu Dongyu. At that time, even if he was in the king's palace, Ye Fusion would not be able to move. On the morning of the 2nd day, people gathered outside the East Keen Academy. A battle platform was built outside the East Keen Academy, and a vast wasteland was delimited around it. Only top troop talents can appear in this area. Other people watching the war can only watch from a distance, otherwise they will only accommodate. However, Choge city doesn't know how many people are now, even the surrounding area is full of people. The top forces have arrived one after another, occupying the recipe. The people at the academy have arrived. Many people set their sights in one direction. They were students of the academy led by Zhu King, Zongzu and Bailey Shu. Today the East Keen Academy's main target is the academy. Interesting object. The Kotang disciples didn't show up. Many people noticed that the Kotang disciples did not come. It is said that someone saw Luo Fan and Jiu Dongyu leave the inn yesterday, and they must return to the lodge to recover. Someone said, but even so, the other students in the lodge should be there. However, I heard that Yin Fu of the Yin family challenged Ye Fusion yesterday and was rejected by Ye Fusion on the grounds that Yin Fu was not worthy. Was it because he was worried about the Qin dynasty and Dong Hazong's targeting? With the arrival of the main army, the Qin dynasty and the Dong Hazong people came out of the East Keen Academy and came to the front of the battlefield. Today they are the hosts. Many eyes looked at them. Qian Shenmu and Qin Mengru, who were standing together, attracted a lot of attention. Their temperament and beauty were simply too extraordinary. Coupled with their wedding yesterday, they naturally attracted a lot of attention. Queen Mengruo is still very beautiful. Noble and holy, she was now someone else's wife, a little more feminine, and still very charming. The princess of the Qin dynasty, one of the three beauties in the eastern wasteland, was the first to marry. While Hua Kangqing might be a match for Lu Nanshan, only Chu Yi was left. It was reported that Qin Wang and Sun Qin Li were after Chu Yi. Qin Yu took a step forward and looked at the crowd and said, "Yesterday, the East Qin Academy opened. I take this opportunity to invite all the troops from the eastern wasteland to come together to spar. There are no rules for today's debate, whoever wants to play can feel free to challenge, as long as the other party takes up the challenge. If someone with outstanding performance is willing to join our East Qin Academy, welcome." His voice dropped, his gaze looked at the crowd, but no one moved among the people. Obviously, everyone was waiting. Today was mainly a battle between Dongqin Academy and Donghang Academy. Many others have a lively mentality. Of course, if you are really interested, you can give it a try. Seeing no one responding, Qin Yu said, "Today, since my Dongdong Academy is the host, then my Dongqin Academy has thrown bricks to draw jade." After all, Qin Yu's body receded. Behind him, several people stepped forward at the same time, and when they saw the two of them, they couldn't help turning their eyes away. Qian Shenmu and Qin Mengruo stepped out of the crowd at the same time. The two who married yesterday had to start this first war today. However, they found that in addition to Qian Shenmu and Qin Mengruo, 4 figures came out, and a total of 6 people joined the battle platform. This, to fight. All eyes lit up, revealing a touch of different colors. The first battle, is this a group battle? With the exception of Qian Shenmu and Qin Mengruo, the other 4 were not very familiar with each other, but these 6 played on behalf of the disciples of the East Qin Academy. 6 of me, that realm is in the Sky Realm. Qian Shenmu said, "Please invite Donghang Academy, Xiao Wuji, Yu Kangshan, Su Muge, Jing Tang, Tang Ye, and Ha Feng to discuss this debate." His voice fell, and people immediately boiled. The names of the 6 people named by Qian Shenmu were names that many people had heard of. In the younger generation of the academy, Xiao Wuji and Yu Kangshan were truly very famous. Even though 4 people like Su Muge and Jing Tang were behind. Slightly worse, but also has the name of the academy genius. Last year, their weakest point was already the peak of the far phase, and now they should all be in the heavenly position. Dongqin Academy, in the first war, wanted to restore yesterday's defeat. However, such a lineup, Qian Shan Mu can they beat? The eyes of the academy are sparkling. Such a great ambition. Will the first war be to eliminate the best students in the world? Xiao Wuji stepped forward. Ever since being invited by Tang Ye in the arid world to join him last year, he had never proven himself by fighting, even though his reputation had spread to all forces when he was in the arid world, and after he entered the academy, it was also revealed. Amazing talent. However, he never showed his true strength in front of the world, just like the great disciples Kotang and Jiu Dongyu. Today, Qian Shenmu gave him such an opportunity. Yu Kangshan also stepped forward. Before Xiao Wuji, he was very famous among the younger students in the academy. He was a demon-level figure, plus Xiao Wuji, Su Muge and the others. Qian Shenmu, 6 of them, why? Dare to challenge them. The 6 strong people in the campus all stepped forward without speaking, and walked directly towards the battle platform. Qian Shan Mu did not take advantage of them. In terms of world and fame, they were no weaker than each other. In this case, there is no reason to avoid war, only confrontation. 12 figures stepped on the battle platform, many eyes were on him. The 6 people in Qian Shenmu started to stand up in an instant. Qian Shenmu and Qin Mengruo left and right, both at the back, and the other 4 at the front. Obviously, Qian Shenmu and Qin Mengruo were preparing to fight with music, and they had likely prepared for battle beforehand. Among the Qin dynasty crowd, Qin Li looked at this scene with a sneer. Yesterday, Lu Nanshan's defeat did not qualify him to blame Lu Nanshan. His father couldn't, but today, the world will truly see the sharp edge of Dongqin Academy, and the era of Donghang Academy has ended. Chapter 270, One Downside. The 6 Xiao Wuji scattered equally, only listening to Kangshan say, "Be careful." Even though the 6 of them were top figures in the academy, since the Qin dynasty arranged for 6 to directly challenge them, it was obviously carefully prepared. Yesterday's peak battle defeated Nanshan, and now they are the Qin dynasty in the back seat of Donghazong. How can they allow another failure, so that they know exactly what they will face? The academy and the people present were very clear, but the 6 people chosen by the other party were their famous geniuses, knowing that the other party was prepared and could not avoid war. I saw Qian Shenmu and King Mengruo sitting cross-legged left and right. King Mengruo appeared in front of Gukan, and this time Qian Shenmu no longer played the bamboo flute. In front of him, it was Sir. This made everyone show a strange look. Since ancient times, Qin Se and Ming have the meaning of conjugal love. Now, Qian Shan and King Mengruo, did they fight with Qin Se and Ming? Qin Sa's voice sounded at the same time. Qin Sa's voice sounded soft, like a clear spring, and the sound of his voice was majestic, like a crane and a dragon. Suddenly, the sound turned into an invisible light, and fell directly on the four figures in front. Suddenly, the fourth breath seemed to have increased. The power of the heavens and earth around it resonated with it, a terrifying power gathered on them. As if it could erupt at any moment. One dragon shadow head appeared, floated behind the four, and was shaken. The golden dragon shadow was terrifying, as if it had turned into a real dragon. Even more terrifying was that the four people's breaths seemed to blend into the sound of the piano, forming a stronger airflow. The sixth Xiao Wuji had shot. The spell struck first, and the ice power instantly froze. The body of four must be frozen. Raw. Suddenly, a yin dragon came out, and the world shook violently. Just as the original dragon was born, the dragon screamed in 9 days, and the spell instantly collapsed and shattered. Many people below the stage were flabbergasted and only felt their eardrums tremble. Some weak people made a muffled sound, and their mental strength seemed to be crushed. On the battlefield, Xiao Wuji's 6 people have extremely strong strength, and their bodies tremble slightly. Of course, they didn't expect the other party to have such terrible strength. What's even scarier is that when they scream, they give up. The dragon fist broke through, and the dragon shadows on the four seemed to turn into one. A terrifying golden dragon shadow appeared, huge and soaring over the 9 days, and rushed straight to Tang Ye and other academy disciples. The two of them had just resisted the attack of the roar, and then the rampant dragon instantly crushed them. Their gazes instantly changed, and there was no time to dodge. They could only release the Fa together to force all their troops and blast forward, trying to break the blow. Right at this moment, a terrifying sound came straight into their minds, passed through, and then the dragon was crushed. Bang! A terrifying crashing sound came out, and the two corpses flew straight up, spat out blood in the void, and then fell under the battle platform. Just one hit. Combination. Everyone's eyes stared at the four figures on the battle platform, not only combined attacks, but also with the help of Qian Shenmu and Qin Mengruo's melody. Dragon Empire. What the major powers saw was not the resistance from Tang Ye, but the abilities used by the four strong people. Reiki turns into a dragon. Although there are many martial arts methods that can be carried out, but with the strong strength and background of the Qin dynasty, they naturally understand that this is a very arrogant martial arts method of the Qin dynasty. This is a method passed down from the Qin dynasty. The Qin dynasty called it the Emperor's method, and practiced it to the extreme, the Imperial Dragon. At the beginning of this practice, the flesh is like that of a dragon, with the shape of a dragon, and very strong. Today, all four of the four strong have practiced the Dragon Emperor's decree. What does this mean? Are they all descendants of the royal family from the Qin dynasty? In other words, the Qin dynasty taught the disciples of the East Qin Academy to the world, and taught the disciples of the East Qin Academy. If it was the latter, it would be even more terrifying, which means that the Qin dynasty took a very amazing step. Bang! The four figures stepped out in a thunderous motion, with dragon shadows hidden around their bodies, block speed, and headed straight for Sumuge and Jingteng. Obviously, their goals were very clear. They beat the weaker ones first. Xiao Wuji and Yu Kangshan were the strongest. They cannot fight them in an instant and must stay in the final solution. The strength of the four was extremely extreme, as if it could sweep away everything. Su Muge's face changed slightly. With his strength, I am afraid that it will be difficult to compete with the four forces, not to mention, there are two strong who are good at temperament. Help! Explosion! At this moment, a figure descended from the sky like a god, and a terrible gravity pressed down, and a mountain appeared in the void, crashing into the four people. The four raised their hands and exploded. Long Ying broke the sky, an avalanche. But in front of them, Xiao Wuji's figure was blocked there. The release of a powerful gravity spell caused the four people to endure an extremely intense pressure. At the same time, dragons and vines appeared in the surrounding world, and rolled straight towards the four people. But just as the spell was released, a terrifying sound of waves struck, and the dragon-shaped vines were cut directly and shattered. At the same time, the rhythm turned into a curtain of light that covered the bodies of the four, resisting the suppression of gravity for them, and even wind spells fell on their bodies. Bang. The four of them moved neatly and stepped at the same time again, and the battle platform shook. Xiao Wuji said, "Go ahead and finish off the two people behind me. I will block them." 3 Yu Kangshan and Su Muge Jingtang nodded, their bodies flashed, and Yu Kangshan headed straight for Qianshan Mu, while Su Muge and Jingtang went in the direction of Qin Mengruo, who was highly targeted. Qian Shenmu didn't see them at all. He has 25 strings. When he plays it, he is very fast, and the majestic rhythm is released continuously. Su Muge and Jingtang, who rushed to Qin Mengruo, only felt mental strength. Authorized by Wan Jian, Pale. Next, Qin Mengruo's piano sound spell also came, turning into a dragon shadow, banging the two, shaking them head on. This. Everyone couldn't help but shake, and there wasn't even a moment until the war started, and the Donghang Academy fell to the 4 people. Obviously, the 6 people in Dongkan Academy looked like a whole, while Donghang Academy was too scattered, and they were injured. After that, Su Muge and Jingtang weren't Qian Shenmu's opponents at all. One of the 2 strongest evils of Dong Hazong, Lu Nanshan, is Qian Shenmu, who claims to be the first person in the rhythm of the younger generation, and Su Muge can't stop the rhythm. As for the other battlefields, although Xiao Wuji was strong, he faced 4 strong people who were good at combining arts, and used the Qin dynasty's unparalleled Emperor Dragon Decree. This battle will be planted in the Donghang Academy. On the battlefield where Xiao Wuji was, the 4 forces attacked very viciously. At this time, they punched and the dragon shadow swept through the world, but they saw that Xiao Wuji's speed was extraordinary, the combination of wind and magic. After passing the attack, the far phase in the back of him crazily devoured the aura of the heavens and earth around him. The far phase was a ghost, but there were some similarities with Jiu Dongyu. On the virtual shadow body, there are 7 ***** wheels, which spin wildly and release bright light. These 7 god wheels are actually 7 different attributes, all attributes. Seeing the 4 killed, Xiao Wuji's ghost released a terrible illusory light, and spiritual power attacked the 4, but when the 4 attacked together, the spiritual will also seemed to condense, and Qin Mengruo's piano sound magic increased. The arrival made it impossible for a spiritual attack to shake them. Behind Xiao Wuji, the 7 magic wheels exploded into a bright light, releasing a 7 attribute spell, which exploded very quickly, and went straight to the strong 4. Xiao Wuji is strong. Everyone stared at the battlefield. If Xiao Wuji is not the strongest 4 who is clever, but the 4 scattered, I am afraid that Xiao Wuji will be spiked. The 4 of them stood together in the face of the terrifying spell attack, and then the dragon shadows on them leapt up, intertwining into a terrifying dragon-shaped light curtain to block the spell attack. Then, they rushed out, and even gave up Xiao Wuji and went towards Qian Shenmu. At this time, Qianshan Mu was fighting Yu Kangshan, and Yu Kangshan was caught up in the rhythm. Careful! Xiao Wuji shouted. Yu Kangshan wanted to leave the battlefield, but Qian Shenmu's rhythm attack became louder, blocking everything. The rhythm seemed to be forbidden, making his body feel hard to move. At this time, the 4 men stepped out of the air and headed straight for Kangshan. Yu Kangshan wants to fight back, Qian Shan Mu disagrees. Every note seems to explode in Kangshan's mind, and his mental strength seems to collapse and explode. Boom. Yu Kangshan was hit in the middle, the body fell straight down and fell on the battle platform. Boom, boom, boom. It was too late when Xiao Wuji chased after him, and the magic finally crushed the 4 strong people, finally crushed them, and even directly injured the 2 of them. But at this moment, every note came, and Qian Shenmu and Qin Mengruo had already made their way. Now, only he was left. Xiao Wuji's eyes didn't care. He stepped out. At this moment, the breath on his body was extremely wild and irritable, and he seemed to want to continue fighting with his own strength. Brother Xiao. The story was snapped by Bai Lishu and she said, "It's fine." Xiao Wuji's eyes flashed, and he reconciled a little, but he still gathered, and turned and walked out of the platform with Yu Kangshan, who got up. Su Muge, Tang He and the others were very ugly. This battle is too pathetic. That set tactic is interesting. Zhu King glanced indifferently at the East Qin Academy. Qin Yu smiled and said, "Today's battle is just a sparring, but victory or defeat is not important. Why care so much? Moreover, these 4 East Qin Academy disciples are all genius figures from several family forces in the East Wasteland. East Qin Academy is training, they are suitable for martial arts, so they taught them the Imperial Dragon Decree, and today is the test." Everyone looked to Qin Yu. "Doesn't matter if you win or lose. Win, everything is right, it's someone else's shame." Qin Yu's next sentence was even more shocking. They vaguely understood the true meaning of this battle. They not only defeated Donghang Academy, but they also told the world what they wanted to do for the disciples who joined the academy.